you. Thanks for tapping into another episode of Untapped Keg. I'm your host, RJ Zimmerman, and today I'm lucky enough to be joined by my friend and author of the upcoming book, Awaken Awareness, which is out January 20th, up for the challenge. How are you doing today, Up?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's day for you, not so much for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give the full title of the book there because I didn't want to give RJ the whole thing to say there because it's a bit of a mouthful. It's Awaken Awareness, Mindfulness in the Age of Distraction. So Awaken Awareness is what you see when you buy it, and then there's the subtitle. But yeah, so I'm doing okay. Yeah.
I'm I'm excited for this book, especially because we've talked mindfulness before. I've taken, a course from you, gotten certified, and how important mindfulness, unbeknownst to me, has been in my journey. And then once I learned about mindfulness, it's like, oh yeah, that's what I've been doing, and
Yeah.
just how important it is in your life, and especially taking things from a place of being okay to a place of really thriving. Mindfulness is so important in that area.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's such a strange one. Like you say, I mean, I for those that don't know, I have my own certified course on mindfulness, and RJ took that and is certified with mindfulness practitioner's course. And I think the first thing is whenever I talk mindfulness like properly, fully one-on-one with someone or small groups, is when they kind of go, "Oh, I do have something I do." And I mean that's kind of the point of the title of the book, Awaken Awareness. It's to actually because the whole point of mindfulness, one of the biggest points, is to actually understand, is to be in that present moment. And that for a lot of people is the one bit that they're missing. It's like you're doing everything around mindfulness except for the bit that kind of really matters, which is holding on to that one moment and then being able to fully interact with that. Because the thing that I think a lot of people do is they'll do the mindfulness actions, all the actions around
Mm.
it, but because they haven't got the actual kind of mindfulness to it, there's still a lot of self-judgment and things like that that's in it. But that's the bit you need to take away, which once you become aware of what you're doing is how you do it. But yeah, that's kind of with mindfulness, it's always kind of been the underpinning of a lot of stuff I've done within mental health, even if I've not always called it mindfulness. The whole idea of turn on your light first is a mindful action. It's all of this stuff is, and it's how different people interact with it. I mean, for me, I walk and I run and occasionally hit things because of martial arts. For you, I know you walk. That's mindful
Occasionally
walking.
hit things, martial arts, kung fu.
Oh yes, of course, yes, yeah, you've been doing that as well. And then our mutual friend Lobel, he has a moon. Actually, way weird enough, way more kind of I would say hippie-ish, which is he has a whole like mindfulness to the moon. Which is I think a lot of people don't realize just the kind of stuff they do, and you kind of break it down. You kind of go, oh yeah, I'm staring at the moon. I'm taking, it's things like that that a lot of people need to interact with. And I think with the book, the biggest thing I want to do is point out the fact that mindfulness isn't this LA wellness nonsense. And I always call it LA wellness because that's wherever I see it. We're moving away from this idea that you've got to be in, a thin kind of tight tracksuit in the corner in a gym in LA going, because it's just not what it is.
Oh, and that's something that I think just starting there, defining what mindfulness really is, and then we can build on things from that. But when people hear it, their automatic goes to, I think the automatic like social zeitgeist is probably yoga, is probably like
Yeah.
that piece of it. But what is mindfulness really?
I mean, the easiest way to think of mindfulness is taking a moment or actually being able to be in the present moment, which uh, is a statement that almost sounds rehearsed, but the problem is it's because that's the kind of universal definition that's used by everyone in all spheres of mindfulness. So by that, I mean, without just kind of running past everything. I'm in a hurry. I've just got to get on to the next. Got to get on to the, it's recognizing what's happening to you right now, whether that's amazing, whether that's complete shit. What is happening right now? But then being able to actually see it, understand it, hold it, and then look at it without judgment. So, instead of just what a lot of people will do, and I'm sure me and you and many others do, is, look in the mirror and go, oh, you're a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. That we need to get rid of. It's that if you are going to look into the mirror, it's being able to look into it and go, okay, what's going on right now? Why do I feel the need to cry right now? Why do I feel this? Why am I needing to look in the mirror? And just understanding those elements and being able to facilitate your own kind of understanding of self-talk and self-knowledge so that you can actually move forward from it. But it's being able to live in that moment. And that's the difference between mindful action, which is what a lot of people do, and then mindfulness, which is that actually being able to take that one moment, sit in it, understand it, and kind of move from that, from whatever you learn within it.
Mm. And that is such a useful definition too of mindfulness. It's something that people can use. And I think that it's also relational. I mean, a major part of my story, you alluded to it, as me looking in the mirror and recognizing like I'm recoiling from myself and I freaking hate myself, right? Like I really fucking hate myself. I'm looking at myself like I am the biggest piece of shit in this world. And is that true? Like asking myself as the question, is that true? No. But you know what else isn't true? Me looking in the mirror and saying, "Hey, RJ, I love you." Like that also isn't true. So, what is here that I can use and be able to take an action from it? And in that moment that all this happened, and that is a real conversation that I had with myself, and while I'm looking in the mirror trying to figure out why I'm holding it against my kids that they love their dad. Like that's where all of this stemmed from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is me holding it against my kids that they love their dad. Um, and finally it was like, well, I could just say I'm okay.
Mm.
All right. So anytime that I'm talking to myself and I'm like berating myself and calling myself a piece of shit, I'm just gonna shrug and be like, yeah, but I'm okay. Right. Or yeah, and I'm okay. Or just no, that's not true. I'm okay. And that on its own, like did so much to be able to move me forward in my journey. And I didn't know that that was mindfulness in that moment, right? Or and even being able to take action from that. But that is really what it's about.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing I'd say even more than that, so just slightly off, is
Mm-hmm.
it may be that in something you do, you have been a piece of shit.
Oh,
But
yes.
it's
No,
being able to,
absolutely.
but
Yes.
it's being able to know that. And when I say
Mm-hmm.
no judgment, that doesn't mean you're necessarily nasty to yourself or nasty to yourself. It's just the reality. So it's overcoming those mind traps that a lot of us have. And mind traps, you'll see it talked about a lot in terms of psychology specifically, and neuroscience and neurotherapy. They talk about mind traps, and it's basically this kind of negative self-talk that we have. But it's when you're dealing with mindfulness, it's the understanding of like, well, there's the mind trap. There's a thing looking at me going, "You're a piece of shit. Fuck you." And then there's the reality, and that's where the mindfulness is going. It's kind of going, "Hey, look, yeah, that thing you did, you're an idiot." But does that then automatically mean this, this, and this? Well, no, that's not reality. That may be
Mm-hmm.
how your perceptions created something, but it's not the reality of what's going on right now. So it's understanding kind of all facets of it and then moving from that. And I think, yeah, that kind of ability to see reality is a big thing for a lot of people, because mindfulness is helpful for everyone, and for not just individuals. It's helpful for everyone from the individual all the way up to governance and global leaders, which is something I do talk about in the book. This is something that can be, if leaders maybe took a little bit more mindful actions in everything across the board, we may not have so much shit going on, because it's the understanding of the reality of your position, of what is best for everything, you, others, and your relationships, because your relationships can garner so much better through the idea of mindfulness, because you may think you're a fantastic husband, boyfriend, wife, whatever, or employee, depends on what kind of relationship. But until you actually understand and can kind of go, okay, so how do I interact with that? So that meant that and that. Okay, so that wasn't right. I thought that was, but actually, no, thinking about it now, I'm understanding in this moment, and then kind of moving from there. And there's so much to it. And there's so many different ways of doing it. Like you said, there's the usual thing everyone goes, yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I mentioned yoga once in a 317-page book on mindfulness. So I don't think there's ever mentioned. It's I do mention meditation, which is part of it, but again, this kind of yoga and LA wellness style, is very, I do rail a little bit against this kind of weird interaction with mindfulness and meditations and everything like that. So for anyone that doesn't know as well, I'm also a certified meditation teacher and mindfulness teacher as well. So I'm not going to go there, for instance, and say namaste at the start of a session because that has no interaction whatsoever with what I'm doing. Because namaste, which is, I bow to the being within you, that's that's not part of it because the whole point about namaste and I bow to I bow to that within you and I bow to you is literally from its origins in the religion and the spiritual. Now if you are doing it in a spiritual, more realistic, more um you know traditional way, and that's your background and everything like that, that's fair enough. But trying to overlap it with westernized kind of empirical research and psychology, it doesn't make any sense. And it also, I feel, almost patronizes it when you are there, in your white robe going namaste, when you're, from Southern California. Like, fuck off. It really annoys me that stuff like that. And I think I'd hope that this book and many others similar to it, this isn't the only one out there, kind of show that it's not all about that. If you're a trucker from Nebraska, you probably don't want to be doing yoga in the middle of a corner, but you might go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I do. Of a night, I go out and start a fire and just chill out for the night. Oh, if I just take a moment, I can understand how everyone is. Yeah, because that's the reality of mindfulness, and I think that's the big difference. And the other thing as well that's often jumped over with a lot of people around things like this is the actual research behind it, and I try and be as open about that in the book. You will see that I actively reference journals and research that have been undertaken in this. There's scientific empirical evidence behind a lot of the things that I'm saying. And I mentioned that if I'm not saying it and I'm not stating that it's empirically researched, that's my opinion. That's the way that I have learned and taught. But there is empirical research for the bits that should be understood better. And I think that's important.
And recognizing that there's no one right way, right?
Yeah,
To be able to implement this, to be able to, oh, you have to meet somebody, with this namaste, or else you're not living your life like mindfully and all of that.
yeah,
Like that's kind of the insinuation that you can get in that realm. And that's where it's like it builds up to this point of, if that works for you, great. Use
yeah.
it. But if it doesn't work for somebody else, it doesn't mean that their practice is any lesser.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that isn't the same. If that's in your heart is actually the way that you feel better, then great.
Right.
I don't think it is the way that most people in their heart actually are because
Mm-hmm.
it's a forced commercialization of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know very few people that force commercialization as their true heart. You never know. But if there may be a form similar to that. So it may not be that, the one that's there in the very commercial thing is right for you, but it could be that there's a community center down the road that does very similar, but it's more kind of just community led. That's actually just as good for you because you are the kind of person that does want that. So yes, it is important to point that out. You're right that those still do have their place for the right people. But the reason I always say it kind of almost separate is one is the commercialization, but also is the amount of people that go, oh, I've tried mindfulness, I've tried meditation, I've tried this. I can't do that. Yeah, you can. You're probably doing the actions already. You just have no idea. And that's the big thing is to try and awaken awareness in individuals to kind of go, this is what you're doing. You
Mm-hmm.
just need that moment to see that this is what you're doing to actually then interact with yourself way better.
I had a little bit of an ADHD moment there where I like all of a sudden took something and like related it to something else. And we can go there if you, but it reminds me of like what DDP did with yoga. Like he took
Yes.
yoga and made it like more relevant to,
Yeah.
those tough, hard nosed wrestlers and like the people who weren't really into the whole scene behind yoga. But then all of a sudden, like there is something behind yoga, like scientifically and everything else. There's
Yeah.
truth to that. Like I benefit from yoga and I do yoga. Um, I'm also not the person like into like meeting you with namaste things of that nature, but I do enjoy that, and I get the mindfulness access or the mindfulness impact that I can get from it, where it's connecting me with my body, and I can use that.
Oh, absolutely.
However, like there's different ways to be able to reach that mindfulness too.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm actually doing a qualification in to become a Zen yoga instructor. So, for anyone that doesn't think I can be nice, there's that. But I mean, I do personally. I meditate to Die Hard. I've made this known quite a lot. Because of I know that film so well, that it becomes background.
Christmas film, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely a fucking Christmas film.
Yeah,
If that's not a Christmas
Christmas movie.
film,
Yeah, absolutely.
neither is Home Alone. But I
Yes,
use that.
100%.
I use that as because I know it so well, in that I can. It's almost the kind of the beat of the background to do what I need to, because then I can just concentrate separately from it. And anyone, by the way, that tells you, clear your mind, just leave that class because you can't. It's because then all you think about is clearing your mind. The DDP thing is interesting as well because yeah, it's like you say, it's all these different people because DDP had or for anyone that doesn't know exactly Diamond Dallas Page, he had a back injury, and so he broke up his this yoga. He did yoga, like a more normal form of yoga, and found that it really helped his back. So he then ended up breaking up into three stages. So he had yoga for people that are bed bound, people that are chair bound, and then people that can walk normally. But I mean, if you'd gone back in the day and told anyone that Diamond Dallas Page and Jake
Yeah.
the Snake from the WWE we're going to be doing yoga together, most people are going to be going, all right, mate, maybe a few less of the drinks. Like, that's just not what you use. I mean, especially Jake the Snake, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Um, and it's, and actually, I'm pretty sure because DP's talked about this. That's actually one of the things, his version of yoga is one of the things that's helped Jake with his addiction. So, because he's managed to interact with it.
And like Chris Jericho, like he credits
Mm.
the DDP's yoga program for allowing him to come back and do professional wrestling again. So it's
Yeah.
like there is something based in all of these. It's just a matter of taking it and making it work for you. It doesn't have to look how you think it's going to look, like that commercialized version like you're talking about that
Yeah.
is penetrating everything. And like with mindfulness, you're talking about the self-talk earlier, and
Mm.
how that on its own, like that there's keys that can happen in your self-talk that now you can start to interact with yourself in a way that, oh, I can actually use any form of what is being said in my mind to do better. I need to change the way things are being said, the way things are being talked about. Something has to change because what is going on in there is not going to allow me to be able to use and do anything with other than become depressed and stuck in life.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's those mind traps. It's those continuous negative thought patterns, which are shown to that I haven't got it to hand. I wouldn't be able to find the page offhand, but there is neuroscientific research into this and the changes that such negative talk actually has on you, but then also the literal change in brain structure, the thickening of some parts of your brain structure from doing mindfulness. Now that part when it's kind of that part that's dealing with resilience and that kind of thickening of certain parts of your brain structure and the rewiring of your neurology. That's more specifically mindful meditation. So that part of it, that's where the research is. That's like quite specifically there. And I think that's around the prefrontal cortex, but that's where the research is. So it's like I say, it's recognizing what's right for you, but it's also recognizing that within mindfulness, there's a million different practices, and maybe there's something that you're thinking of, something you need help with. Well, you can probably find the specific practice or list of practices that are very useful within that area that you're struggling with. If you're struggling with negative self-talk and mind traps, okay, well, then we have this mindful meditation. We have things like this. If you're suffering with something else, simply going on a mindful walk, interacting with different parts of your mind, of yourself, of your daily life can be so important. But recognizing that even for yourself, you might have 10 different things that you do that are technically mindful practices throughout the day. It's not just going, okay, so I've got to go to the gym later. Yeah, I'm going to fit in some yoga afterwards. And yeah, okay, I'll walk back. That's not it, because that's not mindful. It's just
Mm.
that's making it part of the routine. And the whole point, especially the front end of the book, is we get trapped in this kind of modern digital sphere where everything is constantly attacking us. It's a notification, and it's an alert, and it's like, oh, I've got the gym there, and then I've got to get back off. Oh, wait, someone's waiting for me there, and I've got yoga afterwards, and then I've got to pick something up from the grocery. Okay, great, yeah, that's cool. There's no mindfulness in that at all. Mindfulness is being able to kind of almost separate but live within that and understand that, and potentially even use some of the digital sphere, such as certain apps or websites, to move forward and be able to be who you are within it, not having it control you, but finding your place within it, not under its control. So, being able to say when you're going on your daily life for your lunch break, going, okay, well, my lunch break is half an hour. There's a park nearby. I can have a 15-minute stroll with my lunch rather than sitting at the desk. You don't need to answer that email right now. You've got a half an hour break. The email can wait. If your boss has a go at you, you're on break, whether you're at your desk or not. And actually, removing yourself from that allows you to then kind of take a moment and rewire your thinking towards, okay, this is the world outside. This is my life. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And then going back rather than just continuing at the desk. So simple things like that can be part of it. But then it may also be that when you get home that night, well, you and your partner, or just yourself, or whoever there is there, you might want to take 5 or 10 minutes for a simple breathing exercise to just take it off from the day that you've just had. I've had a shit day. What's the first thing that happens? You come in, how's your day been? The first thing that most people want to do is, oh, let's not talk about the day. Is instead you could just be like, oh, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to need those breaths tonight. And you can just have that as a thing, and your partner could join you, or they could just be like, okay, cool. I'll see you in 10. And you can just go and do breathing exercises or whatever it might be. But there's so many different things that you can put throughout your day that can be part of your daily life, or just set as a routine that is used at certain times, that just allows you to act mindfully daily, because that's actually where a lot of the brain reconstruction and those kind of deeply rooted neurological changes happen, is when it's daily, because it's continuous, and it's cumulative. But once you're having that as part of your daily pattern, you're just going to be more at ease. Or even if you're not at ease, you'll understand the points that are taking you away from that, and instead of immediately being reactive to them, you're going to be able to take a moment from them to then move forward.
And something that you said in there too is being able to take those timeouts and separate what's going on in your life from who you are. And like when you can do that, now all of a sudden you can move through things with different intentions. Like
Yeah.
instead of scrambling to get this done, because if I don't get it done, that means I'm a bad worker. That means I'm a bad person. Sometimes it does get that extreme, right? Whereas you say, okay, I'm struggling to get this done right now. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad worker, I'm a bad person, I'm a bad employee, any of that. It just
Yeah.
means that this project right now is a struggle. Guess what? I can bring that up to people and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this one. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why. Get some different perspectives. Maybe it unlocks something. Or maybe they're like, holy crap, I can't believe you were tackling that entire thing. Take an extra week, get that done. That's way bigger than what we thought it was.
Yeah. Or I mean, even more extreme than that, it may genuinely be that by taking more time to separate yourself from your work, which, your work is not you, doesn't define you. You are separate. It may be that you suddenly just gonna go, what the fuck am I doing in this job? and completely change.
Yeah.
Or go right, okay, New Year's resolution, because we're kind of in that period, is this time next year, I want to be in a position where I can quit. I take that mindfulness for the next year, have the same job, but savings or whatever. But I want to be able to do something in the background that's then helping me move into something else. Maybe building up your CV or resume. Maybe doing different classes at night. Maybe interacting better with your partner at home. Whatever it is. But I think that there can be extremes that people don't realize when they're more mindful, because of the way that the world works for us, and this kind of continuing spinning sphere that we find ourselves in with just continuous distractions, we can not even realize that we're unhappy sometimes. There used to be when I was on Twitch back in the day a few years ago, I banned the word fine because people would always, if you ask someone how they are, their always response is, I'm fine. Everyone goes, I'm fine. That's not an answer, because that's not, if you were good, you'd say good. If you were terrible, you probably wouldn't be there, but there's something going on. So what is it? We want to know. And I think with the idea of mindfulness, you can start to understand that. And sometimes you don't even understand that you're unhappy. You don't haven't taken the time. You spent 3 weeks on a project at work, or you spent the last 2 months arguing with your partner, but that's just life, right? It's just something like that is going on, and you just don't think about it until you just go, whoa, wait a minute, what? Oh shit, no, I need to talk to someone or do something. And I
Yeah.
think it can be so much more extreme than people realize.
Hmm.
We find ourselves droning through life.
That, like what you just described, is, what I think a lot of people call going through life on autopilot, and
Mm.
how this is how you can stop it, right? You can just put a wedge in between it and be like, okay, this has been autopilot. And I mean, it describes what my last 2 years in Wisconsin was like before I moved cross country to Virginia. And the difference between that and here. And it's not that it was any one thing there. It was just a bunch of things that happened that I didn't even really recognize. And when I lay it out to people, like what my last 2 years was like there, they're like, how are you doing all of that? I don't know. I just was, right. And I didn't realize all those plates that I had spinning and how difficult and heavy so much of things were. But when you have this mindfulness and you can interrupt that cycle and just stop that autopilot and be like, okay, what is, maybe you have that, like you said, at lunchtime, like, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to be mindful. What do I want my intentions for the day to be? Like,
Yeah.
not productivity. What do I want to get out of the day? I want to be present. I want to experience a few laughs. And I want to look at the day and be like, I had some really good conversations. Like that's a hell of a day to me. That's a hell, like I'm looking back at a day like that's, wow, what a great day. All
Yeah.
right, there's my intentions mindfully for the day. 12 o'clock, reflect what happened in the morning that got me towards those intentions. Guess what? It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that your day is over. It just means, okay, I haven't met most of those intentions. Now going forward, what can I do different to be able to be more intentional with how the day is going to progress? And some days you're not going to reach what you have intentions for it, but at the same time, you're going to do it in a way that you have more of that control and awareness over what's going on rather than looking at what happened and reacting and being like, wow, today was a crappy day,
Yeah.
when it
And I
was
mean,
maybe one thing that happened.
that's the important thing, is not being reactive, not being judgmental to it. So if you don't have the day that you expected, in the kind of most people's current state, it's like, oh, why didn't I? Should have done more. Whereas in if you're being more mindful about it, it's okay, I didn't do that. I wonder why. Okay, maybe, you know what? I spent too much doing that. Okay, tomorrow's different. And there's an old joke that I think actually says a lot about mindfulness in my mind, even though it's a joke. It's three men going to work, and they go to the lunch hall, and they're on lunch break, and one of them just gets this ham sandwich out. He goes, "Oh God, ham sandwiches again! I can't stand ham sandwiches." If my wife makes me ham sandwiches one more time, I am going to run into traffic. And the second person goes, "Yeah, I know what you mean, man. I've got a, club sandwich. I've never liked club sandwiches. What the hell is she doing this for? If I get this again, I'm going to run into traffic." The third person, yeah, same, cheese sandwiches. I don't even like cheese. Unless it's melted, what's the point? I don't like cheese sandwiches. If she does it again, I'm just going to run into traffic. Next day, two of them have something slightly well, they all have something that's basically the same. Ham, oh, it's got mustard on it this time, but that's it. They basically got the same meals. So they all jump in, they all run into traffic. And at the funeral, the three wives are there just going, I don't know what happened. He never told me he didn't like ham sandwiches. And then the second one, yeah, he asked for club sandwiches like 2 years ago, so I kept making them. And then the third one going, I don't understand it. He made his own sandwiches. And to me, that's almost that kind of autopilot. It's this, you don't understand that you're the one kind of killing yourself. You have no time to reflect. You haven't taken that action within yourself, or at least understood that action to realize that what you're doing is creating this stress to be spiraling over and over and over again and finding yourself in an early grave because all you're doing is attacking yourself with stress and telling yourself that that stress is good for you because it means you're getting somewhere. It's like the no pain no gain what you have at the gym. It's the same kind of thing where it's meant to be stressful. It means I'm working hard. What? Look at some of the best millionaires, billionaires, millionaires at the moment. They are not stressed. Some of them are. They're the older ones. A lot of the younger millionaires nowadays, they're not stressed. Look at YouTubers. They're not stressed about it because they figured out how to do this. You have people like KSI from the Sidemen who has literally said that he was having so much stress and so many issues and just not making relationships that he started going to therapy and started to figure out these moments of mindfulness and meditations that he built into his boxing and everything like that. And suddenly boxing becomes his mindful action and oh, he's feeling better and he's making relationships that last. And it's so much, it sounds so simple and it can be. The problem is one, believing that it's that simple, and two is actually taking that time. Because again, the the thing you may discover in that moment is not necessarily the best thing in the world. It's not, and I think this is again where I differ a lot from a lot of the kind of commercialized ones. Because the commercialized ones, a lot of times, you're going to go, "Oh, this is just going to make you, you're going to feel so amazing afterwards." You may feel shit, but you can understand why. You don't judge yourself for it. You can understand the points that took you there that can take you away from there. And you actually find the reality of what is happening, not just the little things that tell you that it might be that way.
It's it's interesting you say that because right now I'm doing a 30-day emotions and feelings challenge, and it's really just being mindful with your emotions, like figuring out how it's interacting in your body, where things are. But a lot of what I tell people, like in the processing of emotions and how things are happening, is you can feel this and you can process it. That doesn't mean it's going to be fun or you're going to see the benefits of it right away. Right.
Yeah.
It's like you are going to feel like shit. You are. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of this fucking sucks. It really does. But you know what? It's no longer going to stack up inside of you and make it so that you can't feel excitement or joy, or it's not going to stack up inside of you. And something that happens that shouldn't really have a response from you gets this mega response.
Yeah.
Like that's not going to happen as often. You're still human. So that's going to happen, sometimes, but it's going to be a lot more rare. You're going to be showing up a lot of the time like, huh, this would have bothered me a lot more in the past and it's not this time. I wonder what could be different.
Yeah. And I mean, I think sometimes when people find what helps them, they're almost annoyed that they haven't been doing it for ages. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
the
Yes.
obvious one here, because I mentioned it in the book, mindful journaling. And
Fuck you. Just fuck you.
so for
Fuck you. Fuck you.
a
Fuck you.
long time, I used to talk about, double journaling specifically. My way of doing it was always double journaling, which most people don't do, but I like. And I'd said about this to everyone. And then one day I just got a message from you just going, yeah, you've been proud of start doing journaling. It fucking helps. And
Yep.
it's just like, yeah, it does. If you find something that helps for you, it's just amazing. But you do kind of just go, oh, God damn it, why don't I do this at
Yeah.
first? Like, and I think that's something that people try and avoid as well, because people don't want to feel like they could have made this so simple. Again, it's that thing
Hmm.
of understanding that some things can be that simple. And that, I mean, that's why, for the book, I try and lay things out very differently for different people because different people interact with it. So, I mean, I talk about the interaction between mindfulness and productivity. It's not that, you have to be. I think a lot of people think, it's going to be very airy fairy and kind of, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to be a hippie now if I'm doing mindfulness. It's like, no, you can be at work doing stuff that's really productive. The difference is your productivity doesn't look like how you think it does. It's if you're doing it mindfully, it looks a lot better. I mean, the obvious thing, despite a lot of the issues with the man himself, Henry Ford understood this. Henry Ford was one of the people that pushed for weekends. He pushed for people to get the weekend off and to give them discounts for cars so they could go and check out the football and things like this. He may have been a despicable man as a person. However, some of those things actually they make sense. And
Hmm.
he was, he is the kind of grandfather of capitalism and productivity in the US. A lot of that is
Absolutely.
mindful. But how many people will go, no, I've got to work this weekend. No, you've got to work all the time, every time. Well, his guys didn't. And who doesn't know what a Ford is? There's things like that. And so I try and break it down into that. And, the beginning of my book, the first few chapters are literally me trying to let people or make people understand what is going on right now, the issues that people are going to have, the modern world we're in, and the problems that you can kind of come across it, and then we get into the nitty-gritty. Whether you're looking at something to help you with productivity, whether you're looking at something in terms of how you're trying to overturn these mind traps like we've talked about, and everything like that. I mean, it's 12 chapters. I try and be as you know as concise but not too concise as possible. So
Yes, I
you
know
know
exactly what you mean.
yeah, because it's like I don't want to make this just, well, that's the answer. Just go and look at that. It's no, I need right, this. That's why I mean, there's like two or three of my chapters where I basically go over the same standard subject matter in each of them. I think I even lay it out very similarly because it's OCD and things. But there are nuanced differences in each one because I know that people will pick them up and that's what you want to do. There's different research that you might be going into and looking at. I was like, oh, this one means this and this means this, but it's the same action. Oh, how do we interact it with education? How do we interact it with communities and with global governance, with the environment? I mean, there's so much to mindfulness that people just don't see. It's mindfulness is for the guy that's smoking pot and going yeah man to everyone. That's what mindfulness is. That's what everyone kind of sees, and it's really not. The amount of people that interact with it, I mean, you'll probably find we were saying about DDP yoga earlier, but they are actively being mindful in most of that. In fact, I've seen
Yeah.
some of the DDP yoga stuff, and he literally the way that DDP actually gives some of those sessions is that recognition. Because I mean, so anyone that doesn't know, a lot of the stuff with DDP yoga is it's like a it's like a workout without any weights
Hmm.
overlapped with yoga. But that moment of, tensing the muscle, understanding, feeling it, holding it, all of that is you have to be mindful in that moment to not have any injuries and things like that. So he's literally building that in, whether he realizes that. I'm sure he does because he did traditional yoga beforehand. But there's so much there that people just don't realize what it can do for you. And it can really help your overall health, not just in mental health, but your physical health. It can help the way that we run our communities and our safety. It can help with, global issues that are happening right now. There's so much more to mindfulness than just, you know, the guy in the corner going, and that's really what I've wanted to do with this book. And that's why, when I first did, when I spoke to my cover artist to do the cover for the book, and I gave them my stuff, and I gave them exactly what I wanted, but the first one back was what you'd expect from a mindfulness book. It was just white, and then there was like a flower in the middle. Like, it's not what I want. So, we're talking about digital age. We're talking about the mind. And then the one I got back was a black a book with like electricity and technology going throughout it, and then a kind of techno brain in the center, and that's what I got. That's what I see mindfulness as. It's our mind within a technical age, within an age of darkness. That's what it is. But even the person that was doing the book design for me, their first response in their head, even though they'd been given instructions, was, "But it's mindfulness, so it's a nice flower and some calming stuff." It's like, well, that's not always the case with mindfulness.
Yes. Wading into that abyss sometimes. I mean, that's, it can be scary, but something you brought up there too, like you want to talk about things that are annoying that work. And you
Mm,
mentioned it earlier, breathing, checking your breathing, just changing the way that you're breathing, literally
mm.
changing my breath in that moment. See how it changes the way your brain is working and what you're feeling inside. And it's so annoying, but it works every single time. It's yeah. And I mean, it's you're human. You're like there is a reason for it, but it
Yeah.
it works and it's annoying that it works.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's that realization that some of this stuff is just so easy, and we've just thrown a load of people off of being able to breathe properly now by mentioning breathing. But
Yeah.
but that's why guided meditations are so useful to people outside of normal ones. So I do meditations to die hard, but some people prefer guided meditations because they like the kind of simple instructions, so they're just disconnecting as much as they can do and being able to not have to find a connection because that voice is telling me what to do. That's saying that breathe in and hold it and do this, and there's a disconnect without there being a true disconnect, and that's really useful for a lot of people. But it's so important that people find their own path to mindfulness, and there's so many techniques and there's so many more the second that somebody hears about one because they've just made an adaptation to it. There are no perfect techniques. There are techniques that you can then take and make your own, and they have a kind of an
Mm,
umbrella to them. But there's no perfect technique. And this kind of goes back to for when I was teaching martial arts and self-defense, the amount of people that would be like, yeah, but I want to get this exactly right. And I'm like, I'm teaching self-defense. There is no exactly right because I'm different size to you. I'm different age to you. I'm, different muscle density. Everything about me means that if somebody's going to attack me, it's going to be very different to if they attack you or whatever it is, or reacting before something does happen. And but people in their mind are just like, no, there's a perfect way of doing it. Why? Well, of course there is. There's a technique, and if there's a technique, then there's a perfection to it. It's like, not really. You know, I think that the problem that a lot of people have is that they let go of good to try and find perfection, and that's a big problem because you already found the good
mm.
and you've let go of it to try and find something you'll never find, where you already had good. You had very good, you had brilliant, you had exceptional, and you let go of it just find something that's not there. It's, when you're reaching for something, it's okay to reach for something, but if you keep reaching upwards and you're on a ladder, you fall off it. And I think that's important for people to realize when they're doing things like that.
That's so perfectly put. And to illustrate this to other people too, like you look at sports, you look at basketball, nobody has the same shot, right?
No.
Nobody has the same looking shot, but look at all these professionals doing shit that you never do. With baseball, nobody has the same swing. Soccer, football, right? Nobody kicks the ball the same. Like they really don't. Everybody has their own that works for them. And when you recognize that and you can start to build it in ways, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Like when I was a high voltage line tech teaching people, and I still do it with as an electrician with apprentices. When I teach people, I'm like, this is the way that I do it. Take
Mm.
something from this and use it. Like, here's why. So use it. And it might look completely different from the way that I do it. That's okay. As long as it's safe and it works. Okay.
Yeah.
And it also, if it looks like crap, I'm going to tell you it looks like crap and we're going to change it. But like,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is what it's about. Take it and make it yours.
Yeah, to take it onto to martial arts again. I mean, a big
Yeah.
kind of obvious one for me would be someone like Bill Superfoot Wallace. So those of you that were in a little older than me and RJ, or maybe our age, will remember Bill Superfoot Wallace from the 70s and 80s was a big name in martial arts because he's three-time world middleweight karate champion. Um, but the reason he got so well known, yeah, he's very flexible. He can kick your head without you even realizing that he's there. And there was a lot of power, but he had to create that power like that in that leg and kick very much with his left leg because he had a knee injury in his right leg. That's the reason that he ended up having this very powerful, very precise kick with his left leg because all of the practice that he would have usually done everywhere else was all on now on his left leg. He still did practice with his right leg and everything like that, and obviously it was still, stable enough. But he knew that he'd never be able to generate the same power. So all that kind of time that he would have spent there went into his left leg, and so suddenly that became better. Now it's potentially possible that if his right knee had been okay, he may not have had the same success. But he made what was seen as something that means you can't do something and turned it into the reason that he could. And I think that's something to remember with mindfulness is there's a reason that someone's also always going to come up with. I don't have time. Love that one. You don't have time to be mindful. Yeah, yeah, you do. So mindfulness is an action that can be continued throughout whatever you do in any form. And if you eat or you walk or you breathe, you have time to be mindful.
Or
But
drive.
people, yeah, exactly. Although don't disconnect too much when you're driving. But there's always something you can be doing to do it. But someone's always going to find an excuse. And there's I think the important thing is to have that discussion with yourself, which in itself is an act of mindfulness, and recognize why you're trying to avoid it. You know, the every time you come up with an excuse, the end of the conversation with yourself or with somebody else should be the word next. Yeah, next reason, next excuse. Come on, throw them at me. They're never going to be that you are right because you're not. You have time. There's not an excuse not to do it. There may be a reason not to do that specific type of mindfulness. That just doesn't work for you. Now, everyone can do talking therapy because it doesn't work for everyone, but it doesn't mean you don't do therapy. There's always a way of doing it. There's always a thing to do. I mean, the amount of times, I mean, therapy, the one I always love when it comes to therapy, for instance, is the amount of people that go, oh, I can't do therapy. I can't be just talking to people randomly like this. Friday night in the pub, talking to their mates about everything that's wrong with their marriage. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, the best, but it's kind of type of therapy. You do these things, and it's just
Hmm.
understanding them, holding them, and moving from that.
And that's such a great play like moment to be able to realize, well, where are these moments where I actually do partially and I can take it and move it out. And it goes back to that if you really want to do it, make time to give it a shot. Like just see what happens. Just if you really want to try something, that means you want something to be different. So just try something different and see if that points you in a direction that change can be made.
Yeah, it's just understanding that, like I say, sometimes you're not even really making any time. It's just tagged onto it.
Yeah.
I mean, it always reminds me of when me and I used to be in sales for quite a long time when I was younger, and I know people, I know, this is me for my sins, and we used to have a line, me and a friend of mine, of like, can you because we sold at first we were doing when I was at university selling mobile phone contracts, and it was like, can you afford to not save money? And people just be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they'd suddenly go, wait, what did you say? It's like, so you don't want to save money. You can't afford what you're doing at the moment, but you can't afford to save, and just disconnect them for a second from understanding what everyone else had said. And they just suddenly go, wait, okay, so I suppose yeah, saving money. Okay, well, if you can save money, but it's just having that moment to allow yourself to disconnect rather than just going plow forward, plow forward, plow forward, plow forward. So just disconnect. Have that wake up to just going to go, whoa, wait a minute, why have I been doing the fuck? You know, it's awakening from a coma and suddenly going, whoa, that was weird. What have I been doing for the past 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding that, and so many people don't want to do that. And hell, I've been that autopilot before. I did it before when I went for university. There was a lot of autopilot there. Glad to be gone of it. And that was a wake up call at the time. I only went into that job to support my late wife. So when she passed away, I'm gone. That's a wake up call, and you suddenly go, what am I don't want to be here. What the hell am I
Mm-hmm.
doing this? And it's those wake up calls, and I think it's important to try and find your wake up call because if you look for it, it's better to find it yourself than for somebody else to wake you up from
Oh, yes. Yes,
it.
because when it comes in those moments, it's like, oh shit. Now I have no choice. I have to look at this because if I don't, then it's going to be just more of the same. And I don't want that. Like,
Mm.
this is just wow. Yeah. So, absolutely find those ways that you can interrupt that. Just, oh, what a great way. What a great way to sum it up. So, if people want to be able to keep up with you, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Yes, I mean, the first thing, obviously, the book is out on the 20th of January. There won't be a link directly below because I won't have the link until it comes out because, I get my copies only a day before the publishers put it out. I literally get I get my author's copy on the 19th. So, but as soon as there is, we do have the link. I'm sure we'll have it on this video and everywhere else. But if you just want to try and search for it after the 20th on like Amazon and things like that, if it's Awaken Awareness, Mindfulness in the Age of Distraction, you'll know that the book is there. We'll try and get a picture of it somewhere above me so you can recognize it if you find it. And it'd be under Adam Parsons, which is my real name for author's purposes. It won't be there as up to the challenge. And so that's the first thing. Go and look at that. Maybe you'll find something from it. Hopefully, you'll find something from it. Beyond that, the obvious place to come and find me is on the It's Good to Talk podcast. So I'm sure we can put a description below, but it's Good to Talk podcast where we have people on very similar to RJ, although obviously I'm far broader in kind of who I talk to. I think
Mm.
I'm not kind of specific in who it is. So we've had everyone from professors of psychology that are world renowned for their understanding of workplace anxieties and things like that to call me Chris, who is 20 million on YouTube and 70 million on TikTok and everybody in between. RJ's been on there before. We've had a lot of people on there before, and it's a chat about mental health that's going to hopefully help you in some way. I will warn in advance, although you probably took it from my discussion here. Although there's no swearing in the book, there will be on the podcast. I'm not. I am. I'm very.
We actually kept it pretty good here,
It's
like
pretty good. Yeah, it wasn't
surprisingly.
too bad. It wasn't
Wow.
too bad. But yes, it's there's no. I don't limit myself for that because if someone's going through hell, me coming in with a the Nikkei 30 kind of family friendly don't say fuck isn't really helpful for them. So that will be on. So that will be something that you'd look for. But yeah, if you want to come over and join me on my podcast on YouTube as well, more than welcome.
Mm. Go give up a follow. Just amazing, amazing perspectives, like wonderful things to talk about. And, obviously, friend of the show and friend of mine, but, he has so much wisdom to share that appreciate that.
And one thing, sorry, of course,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
how the hell can I forget my charity, which RJ is a trustee of, Up for Mental Health. So upformentalhealth.org, .uk, one of them, Jesus. So up
.org.
.org, up for mental health .org, where it's basically finding your own therapy for yourself. So creating your own therapy through hobbies or whatever. There's unique videos on there that are created just for the website. They're not on YouTube or anything like that. That may be everything from helping you set up a podcast because that may be helpful to you, to talking about someone's experience using dance to get out of agoraphobia, and onward from that. As well as that, we also do in-person things through martial arts for mental health, which is going to be, there's about 2 or 3 of those that are going to be happening this year, and a load of other things as well. But you can go and find out about it on the website as well. So do go and check that out. I can't believe I nearly forgot that. So yeah,
And you can find a link about that below if you want to
yes,
check it out. Please. There's some really amazing initiatives coming out for there. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, this has been Untapped Keg and appreciate everybody who's been here. If you could leave a review and send this to somebody who would benefit from it, and let's try to be better tomorrow than we were today. At least we don't make it. We tried. Have a great week, everybody. I love you.